Now, I'm a decent fan of Trench Crusade, I would say. It's been a little bit since I've made one of these videos, but still, I'm still a fan. And, not so recently, I saw a video criticizing the lore and writing of Trench Crusade. And I disagreed with a lot of the points that he made in his video, so I'm going to point each of them out and explain why I think he's wrong. As well as that, just before we start a video, I'm going to give a quick rundown on who he is and the information I know about him going in. But if you already know stuff about him and you don't want me to ramble on about him, you can just go to this timestamp and, start the video there. Okay. Now, the dude I'm criticizing, his channel is called The Archcast, and I first heard about it from Major Kill, who was talking about claiming his skull after he surpassed him in subscribers. But, that's pretty much all I knew him from before watching his video. And after watching his video, I thought, okay, some of his points were dumb, some of them I agreed with, but most of them I didn't. And as of me watching some of the stuff on his channel, I can say he is correct about one thing, 100%, like 10 toes down. I will go to hell and back for him on this one thing. Dispatch is peak, and he must be a man of some culture if he understands that Dispatch is peak. But yeah, let's get into this.
The forces of hell have achieved practically nothing in 800 years. The Ottoman Turks did a better job of invading Europe, and in a whole lot less time than the endless and unstoppable forces of hell itself.
Now, while you are correct that this wouldn't be enough to produce strong naval vessels or even have that large of a population, that's not the entirety of the heretics' armies. The heretics have lands beyond Europe and the Middle East. They have lands most likely in Asia and North and South America. We know this because they were first to develop boats, and advanced boats at that, so we could make an obvious assumption that the heretics are currently subjugating both of those continents, or I guess all three of those continents, and Australia and Oceania as well as that. The only thing that's generally stopping the horde in Asia from taking over Europe is the Order of the Dragon.
As the heretics command no visible stretch of coastline capable of supporting the construction of capital naval vessels that wouldn't sit within easy range of Christian air forces.
Now, ignoring the fact that the heretics probably do have access to resources and areas far beyond Christian and Muslim reach, they still have Galaic magic, which is the stuff that can make a never-ending sandstorm and that nothing can get through around Mecca. So is it that ridiculous to claim that them using Galaic magic, they could create a shield or just straight up make that base invisible to the faithful so that it wouldn't get instantly bombed?
The setting further says that demons can't really exist in the real world because it would be a breach of the covenant between heaven and hell. And so, having a demon in the real world would bring about Armageddon, as heaven would go, okay, the rules are all out the window, full-scale war, hosts of angels and demons clash. So,
now within the lore of Trench Crusade, there is ways to get around the covenant between heaven and hell for both sides and get things that are powerful as demons. And that's basically, you take something that isn't a demon or an angel and you just fill it with a bunch of demonic or holy power. For the faithful, that's like the paladins, and for the heretics, that would be like the pit locusts. Both seemingly would violate the agreement, but they're not, because neither of them are technically angels or demons. They're just empowered by angelic power or demonic power. So they're, heretic factions do have access to demons. They're just demon light.
Most, and indeed near all of the fighting, must be done by the heretic legions, humans. Alright, well, mass conscription will solve the numbers problems of controlling such a small and desolated area. Mostly anyways, I think to myself, until again the law goes, well, actually, only the most horrifically evil people can even be a foot soldier in the heretic legions. You have to venture to the gate of hell in the Valley of Tears. You must actually be able to see the gates to even be allowed to be a soldier. And just being within a few dozen miles of the thing is enough to kill any regular human. Thus, only the most truly vile and black-hearted individuals could possibly get close enough. So this means that Hell is already recruiting from a very small manpower pool in comparison to Christianity, Middle East and Turkey, basically. And then they whittle this tiny manpower pool down even further to a handful of percentage of the most evil human beings ever. The heretic legions, in total, would maybe be a few hundred thousands, and that is a very generous estimate. Meanwhile, at this point in time, Europe should be able to mobilize as a matter of routine.
Now, while you are right that the Heretic Legion doesn't have a lot of foot soldiers that are legitimately part of the Heretic Legion, probably as you stated, only a few 100,000, they don't need to have a lot because they have the wretched slave soldiers that they took and are using. And there's probably millions of these guys because, well, they're pretty easy to grab. You just take a dude, say, hey man, you're my slave now. If you don't do what I say, I shoot you in the head. And boom, you got a soldier. You just give him a stick and send him at the machine gun. You got a million of those guys, that machine gun's going down. And while they are less wicked and less trained and less well equipped as the average foot soldier in the Heretic Legion, they fill the bulks. They are the exposable mass that the heretics can continuously throw at whoever they're fighting.
How do we even begin to explain this? Now, there are virtually no in-universe explanations. There can't be. The lore itself precludes it.
Now, I disagree with this idea. I'm going to go and say the reason that Hell's winning is for 3 reasons. And 3 reasons alone. Maybe there's more, and if you think there's more, comment those down below. But my reasons that I think Hell's winning is, first of all, the Path of the Beast claim more every day. They grow in strength because fundamentally, no matter how hard you don't want to think about it, there's always going to be a part of your brain that's, wanting to return to monkey. So they grow in numbers because a lot of those people answer the call of the beast. The second reason is Galaic magic is broken. Okay? It is fundamentally it's like having nukes. That's how broken it is. Because it can let them do wild stuff. It can make them make mecha unreachable. It can make them be able to build these fortresses and these areas for their submarines and boats. It's most likely the reason they have been so dominant. And finally, they can make other Hellgates. That's why Ireland got taken over, and it cost a paladin and an indestructible shield to retake. And Northern Europe is being currently massacred because new Hellgates keep getting opened up from Galaic magic. So you can't really do anything against it because, well, how the fuck are you gonna stop devil magic?
Of the Christian worlds. Any air campaign should be over as quickly as the one on the ground should be. But again, that is me using my understanding of all of the things the world is showing me to reach a conclusion.
And I disagree with that conclusion. And I don't disagree with it because I think, oh, you're in bad faith, you're lying about Trench Crusade. No, I just think you don't know some stuff about the lore. You're just missing a few of the puzzle pieces. So, again, the heretics do have the ability to get demons that can fly and catch up with even the jets, because as long as it isn't born in hell, doesn't really count as a demon. So as long as you can make it in Earth, it's a-okay. Now, as well as that, you also have the fact that Beelzebub, as he mentions later on, is fucking everything up constantly. Every person that falls to Beelzebub's plague joins the never-ending horde, joins this massive abomination, which increases the heretics' numbers. So, ignoring both the slaves and the massive number of zombies, you also have the Path of the Beast and the Church of Metamorphosis, which is, both activates on just an innate human nature to either evolve into crab or return to monkey, which also increases their numbers. Now, while those two are separate factions, they do oftentimes work with the heretics. So, is it that ridiculous to claim that
the heretics could go band for band with the faithful? Is it that ridiculous to claim that they could use Galaic magic to defend their bases in the Mediterranean?
Setting? Europe is at peace. The battlefront is far away, waging war against a hilariously numerically inferior enemy.
Now, you know what? You're right here. There's nothing threatening Europe directly. Everything they do is just a faraway fight in the Middle East, The Path of the Beast doesn't really count, and the Temple of Metamorphosis doesn't count because that just infects individuals. There's not like, the heretics have solid land control in France or Northern Europe. It's not like there's a giant hell portal in Northern Europe, No.
The walking fortress of Britain simply walks into the Middle East and flattens everything. And oh, by the way, yes, there is such a thing as the walking fortress of Britain. A titanic titan construct that literally, armor is so thick it is impervious to all heretic weaponry. And yet, the heretic navies still dominate the seas.
While the walking fortress of Britannia is without the doubt one of the strongest ships within Trench Crusade, the heretic fleets still have some heavy hitters like the behemoth capital ships, which while one of them couldn't go up against the moving castle of Britannia, multiple could, and even possibly damage it, because that's what England's afraid of using it for, the risk of damaging it. And even if they sent the behemoth to destroy everything within the Middle East that had any sort of demonic influence, they'd leave themselves wide open for a naval invasion by the heretics. And so what would they do then? They'd be kind of fucked. And as well as that, after they destroy all the demonic shit there, that's still not going to change the giant hellgate within the Middle East. What are you going to do to stop that? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think the entirety of this video is incorrect. I think the point that Arch made about how they are stating that there's no canon is bad because, it doesn't really give much for someone to be invested in and doesn't really give a reason to pay attention to the main storylines that they will have. So yeah, I 100% agree with him. Okay, everyone, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.